Hello and welcome to Unacademy. You might be aware of a new set of NCRTs which have been released by the NCRT as an organization, which is called the History of Arts. Now, as of right now, we have class 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th available on the NCRT website. And it is interesting that for the first time, NCRT has launched a specific set of, you can say, arts based books, other than the fine arts books which are available for 11th and 12th. So, therefore, now there's a new set of books which will go up till class 11th also. But history of arts, Kriti, Madhurima are now important for your UPSC preparation because these NCRTs have some valuable information. Now, in the next 4 days, what I will be doing is I'll be covering all of these NCRTs in a systematic way for UPSC relevance, meaning obviously it's a sixth class, seventh class, eighth class, ninth class book. So, therefore, not everything is relevant. But what is relevant for a UPSC aspirant, I will cover in this session. The idea is very simple. Kriti has, you can say, two parts, sixth and seventh. Eighth and ninth is called Madhurima. Madhurima was already in the news because of the dancing girl controversy. Now, the idea is that we will cover everything in the most comprehensive manner possible. I will give you the information. And remember one thing, that once you go through these four sessions for sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth, then you are sorted. You don't have to go through the book again. I'll tell you what are the different chapters which are there and how are we going to cover it. Now, before we begin, if you want the PDF of this session, you'll find it in this Telegram channel. And remember that the triple treat, the Shiksha Mahotsav, the 1699 offer is live right now. You have to use the code IAS English for all of these prices to be unlocked. And if you are looking for the least price possible, plus 9 plus 9, 6 plus 6, 12 plus 12, this is the right time. Remember, use the code IS English. Now, this is class 6th, Kriti, and there are 22 chapters here, out of which basically last two are not needed. But there are 20 chapters which are relevant. Again, this chapter is also useless. It is divided into visual arts, music, dance, and theater. Now, as an initiative, I will say that it's a very good thing that the NCRT is doing this. Why? Because as it is, we are forgetting our culture. It is a very good thing that as a community, as a civilization, as a society, we are now making visual arts, music, dance, theater, drama, puppetry, all a part of our school curricular. We talk about curriculum and curriculi changes and the integration of art and culture into it as one of the remedies. So therefore, fully you can say agree with NCRT. We should encourage it, though they have been doing a lot of controversial aspects in this, but still this is very good because at least our children will be now introduced to these concepts. Now, as a UPSC aspirant, we don't per se care about what is the way these books have been structured, but there are certain terms, there are certain concepts which now become relevant for the examination in the larger scheme of things. Now, when I went through these 20 chapters, I have taken out portions which are relevant for you, and you don't have to read this book. In this section, per se, there was nothing relevant for UPSC. The next part, which is class 7th, has some interesting aspects, but 6th class does not have. Music, good, important. Dance, again, good and important. And theater, also. Three important sections of this book, which will help us contextualize everything. Remember that I am giving you relevant portions because it's a school book. A lot of activities are there, a lot of evaluation based understanding. We don't care about that. We care about UPSC and how this will help us in our preparation. So, art and culture, we now have one more aspect where we can cover this and we are sorted. Now, when we go into the music chapter, the first thing which we see is certain definitions. Important. For example, it talks about Hindustani and Carnatic music and pronunciations and the concept of swars, which is the words which are there. Swar is a word which we use in class also. And there are total 12 notes, and These are the notes. Obviously, you don't have to learn these notes, but what you have to understand is that amongst the seven swars, only five have variations. Since S and P don't have variations, they are called as Achal swars. The rest are called, the ones which are called as R, G, M, D, N, are called Chala swars. Now, this becomes important for your preparation because UPSC asks terms. They may not ask you what is SPRG, but they may use these terms Achal, Chala. The idea that because NCRT is now giving you this information, there's a chance that you get this in the examination. So, therefore, name all the swars, they are in front of you. But swar as a term should be clear. The words which make the music itself, the ones which are called as chal and achal, or chala or achala, and the seven swars, there are two which don't have variations. This is an important aspect. So please don't learn music, that is not needed for the examination, but at least these concepts are. Further, throughout the book, there's mention of certain personalities, and therefore, personalities which are mentioned should be listed by us so that you remember them for the examination. Firstly, you should know what is called alankar or sargam, which is vocal warm up. Alankar means the ornamentation or decoration, basically what we call as the concept of elaboration or improvisation which we do. So this word is important, alankar. I'll mark the words here for you again. This is important, swar. This is an important table for us, did you know? And alankar means ornamentation, and how different alankars are used by different artists to make their melody more pleasing. Now, first personality who is mentioned here is MS Subbalakshmi, and how she was one of the most famous and inspirational Carnatic singers, received a Bharat Ratna from the government of India. She's a Carnatic music personality. Then there is example of what basically she wrote and she sung in that regard, known for purity and simplicity. You should know her name for sure. You should know, no doubt. Further, for example, second personality who is important is Ustad Bismillah Khan, very important personality. He is the one who performed on Independence, first Independence Day, 15th August 1947. He is a player of Shehnai, again Bharat Ratna, and again a very important personality, known to everybody who loves music. But if you don't know his name, you should know him also. Then obviously Lata Mangeshkar. If you must be living under rock to not know her, but again Bharat Ratna, 36 Indian languages she has sung songs, and further she is known for her patriotic song "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo," and in that regard was a very big inspiration in 1962 war. There's also the mention of Pandit Ravi Shankar, again, Bharat Ratna awardee. All of these men and women are mentioned. You should know their names. I have others also in the context of Carnatic music. I will talk about that when I reach there. Now, out of everything, music section, this is the most important creative which is there in this book. Why? Because we do this in class also. It is in every book. You'll find it in courseware also. You'll find it in, for example, Nitin Singhani also, which is what are the different types of vadyas, which is instruments. So percussion, avadhana, avadha, avandhana, avandhana or avandha, percussion. You have examples, tabla, dhol with finger or with hammer or some form of stick. Then you have ghana, ghana, solid, wherein you have metal, you have clay, or you have wood. Again, examples are given here. This has come in the examination previously or can come in the examination previously with regards to match the following. They can give you instruments. They can ask you which type of instrument it is. Then you have Tattavadya, which is string, wherein you have fingernails, for example, veena, bow, which is violin, or stuck, which is santur. And then you have Shushira, wind based instruments, either by mouth, by you can say blown, operated, or so there's a certain instrument used, or it is natural. For example, shank, harmonium. Harmonium, you are operating it through your hand, and then you have what is called as a flute. This is an important, you can say, creative. Why? Because it gives us the information of multiple things which we have discussed elsewhere. It is on the CCRT website also, but now there's one thing available in a consolidated resource such as this. Then please learn this, very important. Learn the name of these men, and this is very, you can say, standard list, but you should know their names. You should know what are these terms. Now moving on from this, rag and tal are two words which are used, and now there's mention of two very important, you can say, concepts. First is, in Carnatic there's something called talam. Talam is used to keep the beat. Each talam has a fixed number of beats and is repeated. This talam cycle is called as avartanam. This word 1, 2 is important. Then in Hindustani music tal system, the first matra is called as sam. Now this is important because this can come in the examination. You never know with 2026. And there is also the mention of Mridangam Maestro. His name Sangeet Kalanidhi. No, his name is Palghat Mani, and he is a Mridangam Maestro, Sangeet Kalanidhi Awardee, Padma Vibhushan Awardee. He is Palghat Mani Iyer, known for performing since the age of 10 itself, and he is a maestro. And why is he mentioned in the context of talam? Because he is known for his solo avartanams. So therefore important in that regard. So we get to know about one more personality here, and we have again two terms on this, you can say, page of the music section of Kriti 1. So I hope now you understand what are we trying to do here. We are trying to establish relevant portions of the you can say new books for UPSC, knowing or going through the previous year questions and looking at the pattern. These are the things which you should know. Then it goes to from Carnatic to Hindustani music. And Hindustani music, it talks about rags, and it gives you a comparative table of the musical term in Hindustani and in Carnatic. This can now come because there was a question this year, 2026, about what are the, you can say, one tal which is similar in Hindustani and in Carnatic. It talks about how the swars are in a certain way, they're in a certain style. Carnatic music uses veena, violin, and certain instruments which are not used in North India, and the compositions may be in Sanskrit, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Tamil language. Hindustani music, on the other hand, uses Tanpura, Sitar, Sarod, Sarangi, and they're mostly in Hindi, Sanskrit, and Braj Bhasha. Rag is used based on a scale. Every scale has notes in ascending order, which is called Arohana, and descending order, which is called Arovarhana. Now, again, as I said, this can come as a term in the examination, and they can ask you which aspect of art and culture it is related to. Please don't try to learn these jati, what is called avud jati. These are things which are very specialized. You don't have to become a musician. But now there is a whole plethora of terms and a comparative understanding which has been given by the NCERT to us. Most authentic but important information given to us. So this is again a very important, you can say, set of information which is given to us through this book and through this chapter. Again, you would have to learn these terms. Just be conscious of it. Don't try to become too big an expert in this. That is why we are doing this session. Whatever we do it in this fashion so that you are knowing what to read, which page to read. You just need this PPT, you need this session to cover everything in the most comprehensive manner for Kriti 1. Then we get to know about two more personalities. We have Pandit Vishnu Narayan Bhatkande, who developed what is called as the notational system in Hindustani classical music. Lawyer by profession, he toured the whole country, collected and met a lot of information from the musicians. He then was able to compose. Now, this is important. The Karmik Pustak Malika. This is very, very important. This is a text which gives us the notation system. So you should know about him and his book. Further, there is a reference to a very celebrated personality, Bhupen Hazarika, Assam, known as a playback singer, lyricist, musician, poet, actor, and widely known for his Sudha Kontho. Now, this again is important for the examination because they are now explicitly mentioned in the NCERT. Please understand this very clearly. They may not ask a question, but now we have a source of these questions. So, my attempt and my only urge to you is be conscious of their names. Now, you should know them because UPSC has a source which they call as legitimate source, out of which they can ask questions. It is here. Then, the last set, again, something which we discuss in class also, is given in the NCERT. First, Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, and how he won the Nobel Prize in 1913, breaking this non-European monopoly over it. And his, you can say, composition, national anthem, Sanskritized Bangla, and we know that the national anthem of both India and Bangladesh, both composed by him. Important personality that was, though nothing new. And this is again a second thing which is talked about. Again, we have discussed this in class. We know what is called the Trinity of Carnatic music. Tyagaraja, Muthuswami, Dishkar, and Shyama Shastri. These three men are known as the Trinity of Carnatic music. Tyagaraja's mudra was Tyagaraja. Muthuswami's Dishkars was called Gurudha. Shyama Shastri was called Shyama Krishna. Now, the composition of Tyagaraja was praise of Lord Rama. Muthuswami Dishkar was a scholar of Sanskrit, wrote kritis in the praise of all deities. Shyama Shastri composed what is called in the name of goddess Kamakshi. Now, this is a very important set. We can get straightforward questions out of this. Either match the following, or they can ask you who are the Trinity of Carnatic music, or they can give you the name of these men at the text itself, or they can also ask you the, you can say, what are they known for? What is their area of expertise in that regard? That ways, music section of this book has a lot for us. Before I move to dance, please understand this very clearly that the purpose of this discussion, I'm trying to tell you, this is the first session I'm trying to tell you. The idea is I'm going through this text for you. I'm telling you relevant information for the examination. Your job is to learn this because now it is relevant for the examination directly given through an NCERT. Now, when we go into dances, the first is a whole very beautifully represented, very well written books in that regard, which is dance form, place of origin, and one important posture. So this is very important. For example, Kathakali, Kerala, and this posture is called as Samabanga. Now, this can come in the examination and they can ask you which dance is it related to. It's not an absurd question. It is given by the NCERT now. Then, Odissi dance, Odisha, Tribhanga, very celebrated Tribhanga. Bharatnatyam, Tamil Nadu, Dvibhanga, which is two bhag. This is three bhag. This is two bhag. 3, 2. Kathak, Northern India, UP, mostly the Samabhanga. So these are two same postures but in different dances. Then Mohiniyattam, Kerala, Atibhanga. Satariya, Assam, Abhanga. So now you have a whole set of postures which are mentioned here. You should know them. You should know them. 3, 4, 5, 6. Dances and their state is as it is relevant. Kuchipudi, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. The male dancer is in Samabhanga. The female dancer is in Tribhanga. Manipuri dance, Abhanga. So you can see Abhang, Dubhang, Tribhang and Samabhanga. So therefore, you can see it's a whole set of very interesting information for the examination. Obviously, state, dance, and now posture. This you should know. Postures are common, represented in different ways, but state and dance explicitly mentioned in this book. Moving on, the second aspect which is mentioned within this dance chapter is the concept of bhav, which is expression. Bhav, ras, the idea that there is a different type of navras, there are different types of bhavs which are talked about. Again, important term for the examination. Abhinay, which is the aspect of drama. There, this is very elaborate. You don't need to learn it per se, but very well represented at how there are different types of bhavs in that regard. Very well represented in this. If you have never understood this, you will may understand it now. But it's about how the anger is represented, disgust is represented, calm is represented. You can say Rudra, Veera, Samant, Shanta. This is interesting. This shows you the diversity of India. This shows you the depth of Indian culture and society, and how our dances are so layered and nuanced. Now, one more aspect which is mentioned in this is called the Hasta Mudras. Hasta Mudras is basically hand mudras. We discussed them in class. There are 3 pages of only hand mudras. Obviously, you cannot learn this. There's no point of learning this. But Abhinay Darpan, Nandikeshwar, it gives us a whole set of, you can say, explanations. You should know this Nandi Keswara. We discuss it in class also. Abhinay Darpan and Natya Shastra Bharta Muni. These are two very important texts in that regard. These two to, together give us this whole compilation. Hasta mudras are important in every dance, and all of them have meaning. So if you sit there and think that they're doing some form of hand mudra, they're actually trying to convey something to you. Now, one aspect which can becomes mains relevant out of this book is, how does dance break barriers? And it talks about the bhakti movement, how the bhakti movement gave birth to, for example, the Devdasi tradition and the Tevadirchis in South India, or the Mahari community in Odisha. This Odissi dance Mahari community, very interesting tradition is there. Mahari community used to actually perform it for the Jagannath temple. They were lower caste. Then Vaishnavite tradition start to came through. So therefore, small children, men, basically small boys used to actually perform it. They were called Gotipuas. So Gotipua dance is basically when the Mahari community is pushed out of the Odissi dance, it then goes into the small boys performing as women, or as you can say female. And it talks about how Satriya dance has an origin in the Satras of Assam. It talks about how the different avatars have helped in shaping dance form in and around South India and everything else. So it's interesting that how Shiva's Tandava is the original dance in that regard. There is also mention of the Gotipur dance specifically, Odisha, Mahari community, the Lord Jagannatha praise, and how now it has changed. But from Mahari community, it broke into this concept of, you can say, children. Then from there, now women also perform it. It also talks about how the Chhau dance, the Lavani dance from the West Bengal sector or from Maharashtra, predominantly female, predominantly men. Now everybody performs it. So dance can break barriers also in that regard, and you should give these as examples in a mains answer. There's also the mention of Mohiniyattam, which was initially only women, Yakshgana and Kathakali, which was only men, and now they have gone drastic transformation. Gender has now, you can say, not become important. It has transcended this idea. Therefore, interesting. Now, obviously, these dances, theater forms become very, very important. Yakshgana, Karnataka, you should know. Kathakali, you already know. Mohiniyattam, you already know. Chhau and Lavani, I have now given you information. Now, there is precedence for these questions to come in the examination because they're explicitly mentioned in this chapter. And this is a very relevant section for the mains aspect where gendered barriers and, you can say, caste barriers are broken, bhakti movement, how there is a new change also where certain dances which were dominated by a certain gender are not dominated by that gender now. So interesting, quite interesting in that regard. Then there is also mention to, because it is a school book, so there is a certain section where they want you to fill up information. So there's mention to the intangible heritage of Garba dance. Gujarat, we already know that. We know that it is based on Navratri. It is based on vibrant culture, clapping, and the idea of the Shakti is there. There is also mention of certain dances for which they have given an example. For example, Kerala, there is a certain dance which is performed by women, the Tikali, Tiruvathira Kali, and graceful rhythmic dance, simple Kerala costume, Muddu and Vesti. Occasion is of the Onam festival. Saila, coming from tribal community of Odisha or Odisha, dhol and nagada are used with flute, very colorful, you can say, costumes, and Chaitra Parva. Kashmir, Rauf is mentioned, performed by women in a group. They talk about which instrument is used. Then they talk about attire, the Firan, and then on what occasion it is performed. Now, obviously, you can get direct questions on them. Obviously, that is a given now. Direct questions on them. No doubt whatsoever about that. Because they are mentioned in the NCERT now. Though maybe UPSC is not reading the NCERT, but we have a resource. I am reading it for you. Then there's also mention to Kalbelia, which is again an intangible heritage. Rajasthan, the color of the cloth, rituals, holy, dance, performed by women mostly, also men for the, you can say, pungi, which is a very specific instrument to Kalbelia. Then you have Norkhem, Meghalaya, women, both men and women, and a specific, you can say, instrument is mentioned. Now, these two slides are extremely valuable for prelims. So if that was one for mains, these two are for very, very important for prelims. Lot of information. All of this can be asked directly as match the following. And if you don't get those questions correct, then it's a problem. So please learn these aspects. It is important. Then dance section done, music section done. Again, obviously, I know that there's an information overload, but just take out this information, keep it with you over the next 365 days, go through it. I will be doing it for every NCRT. This is what you have to do generally. Now, when we talk about theater form, a very interesting story is given. Basically, we know that the Natya Shastra is known as the fifth Veda. Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra. It talks about where does the book Natya Shastra come from, which is called the Natopati, and how does it come through? So it talks about how Lord Brahma basically wrote what is called as a certain text, which is called the Natya Veda. Natya Veda, and this text was given to the rishis and munis because when Natya Veda was given to the devas, it became very confusing. So basically, he wrote what is called as the Natya Veda. Natya Veda made no sense to the devas. Therefore, it was given to Bharata Muni to simplify. And therefore, Natya Shastra is written from the text called Natya Veda, and it simplifies everything so that everybody can appreciate dance and drama. So now for you, Natya Shastra, the concept of Natya Veda and the story behind it, and Bharata Muni is very, very important, which is called the Natyopati, the birth of performing act. Very, very important. A mythological reference in the book itself, but very interestingly gives you the origin of the concept of Bharata Muni, Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra, Natya Veda, and how it is considered to be fifth Veda in that regard. Then, with regards to modern theater form as we know it, it talks about the Greek origins of theater, which is oldest known origin of performing arts, which is the concept of how theater is done today, goes back to the Greeks. Dionysus is the Greek god of entertainment, as shown here. He has to be kept happy. In order to keep him happy, there were certain odes and hymns and praises which were performed. So, therefore, mostly the concept of theater comes from the odes, which are called the dithyramb, which basically were to please Dionysus, and they were mostly first based on tragedy. Over a period of time, they started to develop certain stories which were also going to end in good note, in positive note. They are called as the komos or the comedy. So the comedy theater and the tragic theaters both have their origins in the Greek, and Greek traditions were therefore brought in by the Indo-Greeks and all into India, which, and this is something which we refer into the courseware also, where the idea is that there is a mixture of Natya Shastra based understanding and the Greek understanding to produce the theater forms as we know it them today. So important, again, an ode is a type of lyrical, you can say, poetry to praise somebody. Now, the chapter then moves out of theater forms to puppetry, and it talks about the following puppetry. This is the most important column for us. This is the major last discussion which we are having. And the idea is, for example, you have Sakhi Kundei, Sakhi Nach, which is Odisha paper mache based understanding, which is a paper mache string puppetry. Then you have Pavakut or Pava Kathakali, which is Kerala glove puppetry. Talks about the Mahabharata and the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and Kathakali is the inspiration for it. You have Putul Nach in Bengal, which is rod puppetry basically, and it is a very specific puppetry form, which is the puppets are very, very big. Then it also talk about Tholu Bomlata from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It's shadow puppetry in that regard. Togalu Bomeyata from Karnataka, again shadow puppetry, leather forms. Here, the size of the, you can say, cutout is based on social status. Very interesting. And Ravan Chaya, again, a form of shadow puppetry. The whole Ramayan taught through or told through the concept of you can say Ravan Chaya or Odisha based understanding of shadow puppetry. They are also marked on maps. You can remember it through these maps also. If you need a specific map, that is there in the courseware also. So, see, in the past, for the past 30 minutes, what I've done is I have basically gone through the 20 chapters, which basically constitute this Kriti one. Now, the reason to be precise, to be effective, and not go through each and every chapter page by page is because I don't want to waste your time. Your time is important. Out of the music, dance, and theater chapters, I have given you all the information which is UPSC relevant. Just learn this and you are sorted. Do not have to read this book again. I have done it for you. You just cover it and cover this section. So I hope that you found this session useful. I'll be back tomorrow with the 7th class NCRT. Similarly, day after tomorrow with the 8th class and then 9th class. I will give you as much information as possible. I will highlight these things and you can then just keep this PPT with you for the examination. Thank you. Take care.